Well, I got the sound deadening mat on the wheel tub areas and run it up, and then the whole rear deck's covered. Made a big difference, man, especially when you knock on it. So that's going to be awesome for not hearing any rocks hitting the wheel wells. So I think I might have enough of this jute left. I think there's enough there to build inserts for this in here. I'm going to use more of that stuff and probably do the back wall right here. And I may do the trans tunnel with it and then cut out inserts to fit down in the flat area of this, like this part right here. Because most likely the mufflers are going to be probably in this area here. But anyway, I need to find some rubber plugs and put in here. There's a hole there and a hole over there, which is factory. They're going to have to be plugged. There's actually another one over there on that side. So there's two on that side and one on this side. It's kind of dark in here, but I haven't decided where I'm going to put that amp yet. I just haven't decided. It has to be put in a location where you can get to it. And if I put the amp back here on the rear deck, you have to basically hang way inside the trunk to be able to mess with it, unless the back seat's out. But I don't know, man. I think it'd be better to put it into the seat. Just gonna have to wait and see, I guess. I'll think of something, I'm sure. All right, so I used my power probe and I powered up the tail light to get it open so I could check out the wiring. So I don't think that I don't know if I've ever looked at this setup with it open, because I've always walked up there and hit the switch and, you know, looked back here from up there and seen that it opens and then closed it. I don't know that I've actually looked in here. This is a pretty nice touch with the USA 1 logo in the gas cap. That's pretty sweet. So this inside here is covered in shop dust and dirt, and I mean, you can see how bad that is, and it's gritty. And this has grease down in this. And I noticed it was kind of struggling to open. It was kind of slow and kind of jumpy a little bit. So what I think I'm going to have to do is go in here and clean this up and probably put fresh grease in there. I don't know how you would honestly keep grease or, you know, road debris from getting up in there and getting on that. But anyway, the problem that I'm run into is, where the hell am I supposed to route the wires for the taillight? So they got it taped up here. I don't really, where am I supposed to run the wires at? This is like a box. I guess maybe down in between the body over there. I think that's open over there. It's open over here too, but you can't have it running across here because it'll be in the way of filling up the, putting gas in. So I guess it'll have to go around this way, which sharp edge here, so when this opens the wire is going to run across this sharp edge of metal. I don't know, man. I have to figure that out, I guess. Definitely have to put some loom on there to keep it from chafing. I love these power probes, man. These are awesome. So what I want to do is I want to test to make sure these bulbs and sockets and everything are working before I go through and wire everything up, in case I got to pull something apart and clean it, fix it, or whatever. So I'm going to ground it to this. That's the ground off the power probe. I'm just going to ground it to the housing. Let's try the red. It's pretty bright. That's probably the brake light. Yeah, that's pretty dim. So that's the tail light. So the socket that's on this kit, it has a red and a white wire going to this bulb socket up here. So the red is the brake light and the white is the tail light. Pretty important I need to know that. It has a black wire coming off of the socket for the backup lights. And it is working. All right, that's awesome. So I need to make a note of that. Red is brake light, white is tail light. So I'm going to go ahead and put some non-insulated barrel connectors in here and heat shrink them, extend the wires basically, and I've got to get them routed inside the trunk here through the grommet that's there. I need to remove these that I had ran through there before. Just need to wire everything up. The problem is I still haven't called Low-Car to find out how I'm supposed to hook up backup lights to a floor shifter. Really don't want to call and be on the phone for 30 minutes on hold. You know what I mean? Doesn't sound like a good time. Well, I was griping earlier because they didn't have a rubber grommet on that for those wires. That wire going right through aluminum, which when those wires, if they ever chafe, it's going to have a direct short. So this aluminum is so thick, this housing, that I don't know of a grommet that thick that would work in there. So that's why there's no grommet. So I'm assuming there needs to be some kind of wire loom on that. What's bad is I have to run 3 more wires up through that to go to the 2 for the tail light and the 1 for the backup light. And I don't know if adding 3 more wires in that hole, if I'm going to be able to get some sleeve, like loom, on that and pushed up through there with all those wires too. So this has turned into the biggest mess. But I guess I'm gonna have to figure it out. Golly, man. That screw right there is not even tight. I can get my fingernail underneath the edge of that, so I need to tighten that up, I guess. I can tell you there's a few things that it's just not for me, this thing. And everybody has an opinion, but this is mine. These are way overpriced for what you get. It has grease in here for this roller, and this shop dust stuff is already up in here, and this car hasn't even been driven yet. So imagine when you're driving this car without this thing being sealed up to the body with like some foam seal or something. I'm talking like a sticky back seal, like camper top tape or something like that, not spray foam. But it needs a seal here because when this car is being driven, everything that comes off of them tires is going to catch back here and make its way up through here and just settle on this back here. So I think that is dumb because it's not sealed off from the body. Now I don't have the instructions here. I did not install this, so maybe it did come with a seal and they didn't put it in. I don't know. But anyway, this seems like it would be a failure point to me because when this gets packed with dirt and dust, this is going to get stuck and it could pop a fuse or something. Then you wouldn't be able to put gas in your car. But right now I get to figure out how to stuff a whole bunch more wires in there and put some kind of sleeving on there because it doesn't have a grommet. That's a dumbass design right there. That should have been stepped. Like the size, it needed to be, you know, cut out bigger with an edge on the top or something. I don't know. It needs something there for a grommet, but I'm not going to go in there and redesign their unit, you know what I mean? Well, that was a fail. I ran the wires, the 3 wires I need up here through with all those in that hole, and it's so tight I can't get any loom through there. So I don't know what you're supposed to do for chafe protection on your wiring. It's going through aluminum that's really, really thick, so I mean, it's a joke, man. That hole needs to be drilled out bigger, but this thing is already installed and wired up and aligned, and I didn't do this and I don't want to jack with it. So to me, that is a short just waiting to happen, because when a vehicle is driving, there's vibrations in the car, you know what I mean? It's gonna cause that to chafe over time, in my opinion. The other thing I think is absolutely silly is the car, that housing is not sealed. And I mean, this is all open up in there for dust and dirt to, you know, to be coming off the road like a dirt road or whatever, and just go right up in there and get packed in that grease for that roller. So I'm a little bummed out. I don't know, man. But again, I did not install all this stuff, so I gotta figure out. I guess I can try to put a piece of loom on that wiring harness, but as far as the taillight harness, I guess I'm gonna have to route it up the side there, and it's gonna have to be separate because that hole is not big enough. They got a large group of wires going up through there already, so man, that's disappointing, guys. I mean, I'm not an engineer. I didn't design that setup or nothing, but I don't know how they expect you to have something that's open like that for keep dust and dirt out of it. That's just, I think that's silly. Fun stuff. I don't even know. I was sitting there thinking I could probably pull that wiring out of there and drill that hole bigger so I could put loom on it. But I don't know that that hole was big enough for me to even run these spade connectors on down there. Yeah, this has turned into a mess. Another thing that, I mean, it's just me, but so this USA 1 on this gas cap, I mean, that's a cool detail, but wouldn't you want it upright? And this screws on. So I thought, when I first grabbed it, I thought, well, I'll be able to just turn it upside down, but it screws on with an O-ring. So that ain't gonna work. And it has a triangle shape. I was thinking maybe I could turn this whole thing, but it's triangle shaped, so it wouldn't line up. It'll never line up for that to be straight. And that's like that. Man, I tell you, what's the purpose in having a detail like that when it's upside down, you know? Man. Look at that. Look at that crap paint quality right there. Golly. That is just asking for paint to start flaking off. It already is right here. It's starting to flake edge right there. Golly. Look at that. Choose your paint shops wisely, guys, for your projects. There's some shitty ones out there. Alright, I polished the cap back out, and then I took a brush and used a little bit of his pearl white, and I mixed some clear, urethane clear, a little tiny dab of hardener, and some of the white, basically mixed all three together, and I globbed it in the USA 1, and then I went back and wiped it off with lacquer thinner on a towel. So, and you can't really see it, but it is pearl white in the USA 1. So the washer behind it, and then putting the O-ring on it, made it go straight. So, I mean, that's not super duper tight. At least now it's straight. So now I need to go in here and clean all this crap out, and I'm going to wait and re-grease it until after I'm done wiring it. But right now I'm going to clean this dirt and garbage out of here. Alright, so I went in here and cleaned that up. I got all the grease and all the crap out of here. Now I have not re-greased this. I will re-grease this again, but I'm going to wait until I'm finished with all my wiring. That way I don't get, you know, grease on my hands or on my sleeve or something. But I cleaned all the crap off around that back plate. You know, with the cap polished and all this cleaned up, it actually looks kind of nice in here now. I'm going to try to tighten this screw down because it's loose. I mean, I can see that it's loose. I'm going to check them all, but anyway, the only other problem I have with it is the housing looks terrible. I had went in and put chrome paint on this on the car. I had like masked off the car and shot this in here. But the rest of this housing is just, it's nasty. I redid the other one and it looks pretty nice. It's just cast iron gray spray paint, but it looks good, but it doesn't open up. You don't get to see it. This one, You know, you can see their overspray, you can see where their masking tape was. It's just kind of goofy, man. It's hacky looking. It's not very good quality look. So you can actually see remnants of an old dirt dauber nest around that. And there's overspray on that boot, which I could clean off with some reducer. They even oversprayed the wire. But anyway, at this point, I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and take this housing off of this arm. I didn't really want to mess with this because it was already, somebody's already adjusted this. I'm just hoping the holes aren't very large. I actually might take a scribe and scribe around that. That way it's scribed into the aluminum, or this pot metal, I mean. But this way I can go ahead and blast this housing and repaint this and everything. Try to get all the paint off all this crap and get it off this rubber seal and try to get some of the amateur work off of it. Make it look a little bit more professional. Well, I went ahead and removed it, and I went back and polished this up and this part here with some Mother's mag and aluminum polish. Got it cleaned back up. I'm glad I decided to take that apart, because if you can see this chip in the paint right here, so this part right here, this section right here is higher than this, so this kind of has a drop in right there. I don't know if you can see that indent. Anyway, the reason that's chipped right there is the two screws that was in the bottom of that are too long. So that was nicking that paint, and they've been cut off. You can see how they've been cut. Well, they're still way too long. They're hanging way out the bottom of that. It took forever to get them out of there. They wouldn't come out by hand even when they were loose. I had to use an Allen wrench the whole way, and it took forever. But they go through the whole thickness of this and then was hanging down. So I'm assuming that that was what caused that chip right there. So I'm gonna cut those down some more. Actually, I think these are just steel. Yeah, these are just steel. They're not stainless. Well, I got the taillight housing for the electric gas door redone. So I went ahead and just put cast iron gray on it, because they're generally just raw pot metal. And these things, once they get like a white corrosion on them, it tends to eat them up. So I blasted them and went in and painted them, and you can kind of see how it's kind of eating that edge away down through here, and it's pretty thin right up in here. So it's a good idea to coat those so they don't get any more corrosion on them. So they had already put some rubber seals in the back of that, and they had them glued in, but when they reshot the car again, they just taped off, and it had overspray all over it. And one of the bottom down here, there was about an inch long section of the very end that it wasn't connected. It was just kind of loose, and with that electric gas door, I was afraid it would just keep pulling it. That's probably what pulled it loose anyway, because the gas door has to articulate and then slide in. So I think I just went ahead and peeled it out of there and took a wire brush around it, and then I painted everything. But I'm pretty sure I have a new set of these in the house somewhere, or an extra one of these maybe. Pretty sure I do. So I'm gonna see if I can't find this one, because this has got overspray on it and it's got remnants of glue all over, and it's actually too short. So when you guys do these, they slip in the channel there, and you have to glue the bottom in. But anyway, if you have to cut them down, cut them to where they're just a little bit longer, like 3/16 longer, somewhere in there. It doesn't have to be exactly that. Just cut them a little bit longer, and then when you go to mate up the ends, just kind of stuff it in there together. Because what that does is, when these shrink up over time, they'll still be touching, in theory anyway. But it's kind of a mess. So now I've got to do some glue on the new one. I got to find it first and then glue it on. But anyway, that'll have to set until tomorrow before I can remount that. At least now it'll look really, really nice when the gas door comes open, because you know that there's going to be somebody that wants to look in there when it's open. So it kind of sucks that you can see the switches in there and the wires and stuff, but I mean, that's all right. I mean, it kind of goes with it since it's electronic. But What I don't like is how they just did their tape line there. That kind of sucks. So I'm gonna get some of his white paint out, and I'm gonna try to do a touch-up brush on this part here where those screws were too long. Oh, that reminds me, I need to look and see if I can find 2 of these that are shorter in stainless, because that one's been cut. That's what they had on there. So when I sprayed the chrome on the inside of those, I just painted screw holes and all, or screw heads and all, and I didn't get it down there where the rust is. But these are just steel, so I want to replace them with stainless so they don't, you know, when they get water on them, I don't want any rust tears to form on that paint on that. So I have to dig out my stainless hardware. All right, I dug out a couple of, I'm pretty sure these are 1/4 by 20. But anyway, they're the perfect length for that, and they're stainless steel, so they're not going to rust, and they're not going to be too long in chip paint. Pretty big difference there. These hung way out the bottom of that bracket right there, so not interested in keeping that garbage.